Life is this.
Just stuck into it, eh? So, I did mention on the last video that I would do another video sort of focusing a bit more about the things needed during pregnancy and for a baby, in my opinion, what's worth it, what's worth spending the money on, what's not. I suppose the first thing that we sort of looked at, big ticket item wise, was a cot. And there's cots out there that are, you know, upwards of $1,000, depending on the style of your house or what you want. It's really not necessary to buy something so expensive. If you are going to spend more money on something to do with a cot, you're better off spending a bit more money on a decent mattress with mattress protectors. Yeah, other than that, the cot itself, depending on what you like, some people have a certain style in their house, you may have to spend a bit more money on it. Yeah, but as far as functionality and even look, even the cheaper ones, they don't look bad. We didn't pay a great deal for ours. But I suppose the whole sleeping sort of arrangement is something that kind of needs to be addressed fairly early during pregnancy. One of my partner's bedroom, so obviously we wanted to have the baby in the bedroom with us, but I was very hesitant about co-sleeping. So we ended up getting, it's like a little co-sleeper bed, got like a little mesh kind of surround on it. Wasn't very expensive, and for the first few months the baby slept in that. They're definitely good for what they are, but again, don't spend a great deal of money on them. They can be very small. Like after the first sort of 2-3 months, like my young bloke, he'd outgrown it, and he was at that age where we didn't really want to go to him sleeping in his cot, but we couldn't have him sleeping in this sort of small co-sleeper in the bed anymore, which was when we then ended up going to a side sleeper. The side sleeper that we ended up getting, Facebook Marketplace. Like, there's some things that I was very hesitant about buying through Marketplace, but by the time you wash things, a lot of the stuff for babies, especially sleeping wise, is fairly like, you can deconstruct it almost entirely, and it's all machine washable. So, you know, save a bit of money. He wasn't even in it for long, maybe another 2 months, 2-3 months, maybe. And then he's now in his cot. So those sort of, the co-sleeping arrangements they're really not worth spending the money on unless you are going to have a side sleeper, say, or a decent sized bassinet up until they're 1 year old. But they obviously don't really recommend that. So they're kind of not worth spending the money on. I suppose the next big thing that we sort of looked at was car seats. There's so many different car seats. Some of them are ridiculously priced, but with that as well, there is some convenience. I guess it depends on sort of how easy it is for you to get your child in and out of the car. We just went for just a straight, regular capsule car seat, essentially. Didn't spend a massive amount of money on it, but we still looked at, we wanted something that was decent quality, because if something does happen, we want to make sure that he is safe. But I think when it comes to car seats, you sort of, some of them can be overpriced, but some of them you can just pay more for a sort of convenience. There is one now that has a swivel base, makes it easier. Turn the base, put the baby in, turn the base back to rearward facing. I suppose similarly, you could go on marketplace for it, but you also kind of run that risk of that it could have been in an accident. Most people are fairly honest, but there's also a lot of people that aren't. So we bought brand new just to sort of be safe. I guess the next sort of big ticket item that we kind of looked at was a pram. When it comes to a pram, my God, there is prams available that cost more than my work runaround car. Yeah, thousands of dollars. And me personally, I do not think they're worth it. A lot of the times, those more expensive ones tend to be bulkier. Depending on what car you've got, you want something that packs down fairly small. We didn't spend a great deal on a pram, but we also got something that he was going to be safe in, that was going to last a bit of time, because it is a decent sized investment. But I was blown away by how much some of these things cost. I suppose they're probably the three main sort of big ticket items that you definitely need. And then I suppose you kind of start to move on to other sort of things that make things more convenient and easier. You definitely need somewhere for the baby's clothes. On that, baby's clothes. We waited to buy a majority of his clothes until after the baby shower, because depending on your family situation, friend situation, there is a fair chance that you will get quite a few clothes at a baby shower. And they tend to need more clothes than you think. With all the vomit and peeing everywhere and shitting, they just burn through clothes. It's crazy. So when it comes to clothes, cheap. Because they're going to grow out of them before they wear out them. Stick with the cheap stuff. You know, if your baby has sensitive skin, obviously you're going to need to spend more money. But if you don't have that problem, just go cheap. We've gone through so many clothes just in the last 6 months that he's grown out of. Pretty necessary to have clothes. Sleep suits. A lot of people are probably going, what's a sleep suit? It's literally just like a sleeping bag that they zips up to their chin, everything gets tucked in. Makes them feel like they're still in the womb, I guess. Depending on when you're having a baby. Depends on what sleep suit you get, sort of thing, what you need first. The thicker ones, the better. Thicker ones for when it's cold, you definitely pay more for. Once again, I think I was fairly dead set that I wanted to buy them brand new. I bought a couple, and then when he grew out of them, I went marketplace. Yeah, because they just become so expensive when you got to buy a new 2 or 3 or 4 every 2 or 3 months, just because he's, especially at that young age, that newborn age. We got a change table. Makes it so much easier when there is a designated spot to change him. There's plenty of other ones out there that have got all these mad, wicked, bloody shelves and cupboards and thingies. But once again, marketplace, something that was suited our need. You know, they come with a waterproof. They come with a waterproof mattress anyway in them, like a mattress. Quite easy to wipe down, disinfect. Yeah, it's going to get peed on, spewed on, shit on anyway. So as long as you disinfect it so before it gets to your baby, it should be fine. Once again, it's another one of those things where I wouldn't spend a great deal of money on. I suppose then we sort of start to look at some of the other things that we sort of got. Not as a necessity, but as a kind of a want, I guess. A feeding pillow I got, thinking it might have been able to help the missus out a little bit. Didn't spend much on it, just sort of a cheap one, and she didn't like it. I didn't like it. I tried using it when we were bottle feeding as well, and it's just uncomfortable. It just didn't work. It made it harder to sort of position the young fella where we needed him to be able to feed him. So we was literally use it 2 or 3 times. That was it. Sorry, tired. I suppose on the feeding front, we chose to breastfeed. My missus wanted to breastfeed. It was a real thing that she wanted to do and do as best as she could. But on that sort of side as well, we wanted to be able to bottle feed at times as well, so that I could help. And just to sort of, I don't know, that was kind of it. But when we originally bought the bottles, we bought the bottles before he was born, and we bought small numbers of different brands. So they vary in price, not by much, they're all fairly similar, but we found that when he was born, he preferred a certain type, and then we've just sort of recently, in the last month, we've had to change brands because it's truth. He prefers a different type. He doesn't like feed from the other ones anymore. So we tried different ones when he was first born and settled on a type, but it changes as they get older. There's still so much more stuff. It sounds like a lot, and when you kind of list it like this, it can be a lot. But I think if you start kind of early during the pregnancy, that's one thing that I would probably recommend. As terrifying as it can be, and believe me, I was so scared because I was worried that we would buy all this stuff and then we would lose him. That terrified me so much, because then not so much, not the money or anything like that, but I would then, after losing a baby and then having to deal with all this stuff that was bought for that baby, yeah, it scared me so much. But after sort of 12 weeks, we started looking at buying things and setting them up, and then it became more exciting. We were able to sort of space out the cost over a bit of time then, and just made it a bit easier. Sure, one today. Definitely going to be sort of a part 2 to this conversation tomorrow, I think, because I am home. So, like I always say, stay safe and look after each other. See ya.